What's going on, everybody? This is Cody, the home theater hobbyist, and today I have my full review of the Monoprice 5.1 speaker system known as the HT-35. I've spent about 2 weeks with it, and now I want to give you my impressions, so let's get to it. If you enjoy product reviews, unboxings, talk about streaming media, and basically all things home theater, why don't you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime we upload new content. Also, if you want to purchase anything from Monoprice, use those links in the description below because they do help support the channel. So here it is, the HT-35 from Monoprice. This is a 5.1 surround sound system. In the package, you get 4 satellite speakers, 1 center channel, that's the 5 part, and 1 8-inch powered subwoofer, that's the .1 part of the nomenclature. And with this whole package, it has a frequency response from 30 Hertz all the way to 20,000 Hertz. Now in my testing, the subwoofer will play down to 30 Hertz, but really it starts to shine right around 40 Hertz. As I said in the intro, I have spent about 2 weeks with these because the user manual calls for 50 to 80 hours of break-in before you can really hear how they sound sonically. And I will put a link to my unboxing in the description below. Now let's move on and let's talk about the design of each of the components. So we're going to start by talking about the satellite speakers themselves. And these are satellite speakers, so they're smaller than bookshelf speakers. These are about 7 inches tall, a little over 4 inches wide, and a little over 6 inches deep. On the front surface, you'll see you have a cloth grille right here, and it covers about 90% of the front surface with the Monoprice logo down there at the bottom. On the sides, top, and bottom of the speaker, I have the espresso brown surface finish here, so that looks quite nice. To pull the grill off, you just give it a little tug. It's held on by pins, 1 on each corner, and they go into the little cups on each corner of the speaker. And it works pretty well. Once you push them in, they're held in there nice and snug. But the surface finish on the front surface is actually gray, so it has kind of a tricolor look to it that I kind of like. But once you get in here, you can see you got a 3/4 inch aluminum dome tweeter and a 3-inch mid-range bass driver right here. Moving on to the rear and bottom of the speakers, the first thing I want to make mention of is the 1/4 screw holes that you get here, so these can be mounted on the speaker stands. Now on the bottom, you have the same espresso brown surface finish as the sides and the top, and on the back you have the same gray surface finish as the front, so there's nice continuity of design there. Just below the mounting hole on the back, you get the rear port that allows air to escape, but this does not come with any port plugs, and in my mind, that's pretty much fine. Just below that is a little sticker. It tells you the name, serial number, that kind of thing of the speakers. And then you have the binding post down here. Remember, red with red and black with black. Now these binding posts themselves are spring loaded, so you do have to push them down and slide the speaker wire in. So it goes just like that. And I recommend something like a 14 or a 16 gauge speaker wire just to get it into that connection. Moving on to the center channel. It's about 10 inches wide, 4.3 inches tall, 6.3 inches deep, and it weighs right around 3 pounds. It has the same cloth grille up front with the Monoprice logo right there. The grille covers 100% of the front surface. But to pull it off, you give it a little tug, same as the satellite speakers, because it's held on by the same pin and cup design as the satellite speakers. But once you pull it off, you can see that same gray surface finish, and you have the 3/4 inch aluminum dome tweeter and the 3-inch mid-range driver there. Now moving on to the back, the first thing you'll notice is the same gray surface finish as on the front, and there is a 1/4 screw mount here up top, so these can be mounted to speaker stands, but there is no 1/4 mount for the bottom, only on the back. As you can see once I picked it up, the surface finish is espresso brown all the way around the top, the bottom, and the sides. There are 2 rear-facing ports here, and the spring-loaded binding post for your speaker wire is right here in the center. Now let's talk about the subwoofer. It has the same design aesthetic as the center channel and satellite speakers, and it is a perfect cube. It is 12 inches tall, 12 inches wide, and 12 inches deep. I think it's 12.2 to be exact. And it weighs 20 pounds. It has the same gray surface finish up front with a port right here in the center, and that allows the air to exit out of the cabinet as the woofer moves up and down, and it's got that gloss black surface finish around the port. Down there at the bottom is a little LED light that flashes blue when it actually turns on, and then there is the Monoprice logo. Moving on to the bottom of the subwoofer, this is quite important because this is where all the business happens. In the center is the 8-inch driver, and it is surrounded by the same espresso black surface finish as you have on the sides and on the top, similar again to the center channel and satellite speakers. On each one of the corners is a foot to help it stand off of the floor just enough, and they are coated with this rubber or felt material here on the bottom to protect your floors. Moving on to the rear of the subwoofer, as you can see here, it has the same gray surface finish as the front of the speaker, so again, similar design aesthetic. Also, you have the control panel back here that has all of the controls and connections for the subwoofer. We'll start right here and talk about the left-right speaker level connections. So if you want to go speaker level, you can definitely do that. It also has a volume knob up top here, so you can turn it up, down, however you want to do that. And a crossover adjustment from 40 Hertz all the way to 150 Hertz. I typically set my crossover in my AV receiver, but you can do it back here. And again, I recommend 110, 120, something like that crossover adjustment for this particular setup. Phase adjustment 0 to 180 degrees, pretty normal. And also a power switch. And this has off, auto, and on. I typically set them to auto and allow it to turn on whenever it receives a signal. And then if it doesn't receive a signal after 10 or 15 minutes, it automatically shuts off, again, to save power. So that's a nice little feature. And then you have the subwoofer line and connections. And this is how you can connect to your typical AV receiver. You just get a stereo RCA cable like this one, plug into the sub line in, plug the other connection into your subwoofer out connection on your AV receiver or integrated amplifier, and your subwoofer will run. Before we move off of the subwoofer, I do want to mention one thing. This subwoofer, although it's small, can blow out candles using the front port just like the bigger subs. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the SVS PV16 Ultra reviews where the YouTuber will put the candles in front and then, use the air from the subwoofer to blow out a candle. Well, this can do it too. I tried it. Let's just take a quick look. So there you have it. Even though the subwoofer is small, it can blow out candles just like the rest of them. It moves air, which is pretty cool. But now I want to play a few audio samples, or at least one audio sample, so you can hear that these speakers actually do make sound. And then I'm going to rank them in a few different categories from 1 to 5. 1 being the absolute worst and 5 being the absolute best. First category I'm going to rank is design, and I give these a 4 out of 5. First and foremost, I like the colors on these. I think of these as a sort of a tri-color design. You've got the black grille, you've got the gray face, gray back, and then you have espresso brown all the way around the top, sides, and bottom. And so it's kind of tri-color look that I like. Once you take the grills off, I also like the sort of mechanical look to the face. You've got the tweeter here that has these little spokes here, and then the tweeter and woofer are held in by screws that are exposed, so they kind of give it a nice little pop, and they're black against that gray surface finish. I think it looks pretty cool. I also like the fact that they give you the mounting screws on the back and on the bottom, so you can easily figure out how to mount these to speaker stands if you want to. And I like the fact that you get all the basic connections that you need for a subwoofer right here on the back of the subwoofer. So they give you basically everything you need. Now, there are a lot of plastics here. I mean, you've got a plastic face here. I think these walls are plastic and stuff like that. So they're not going to win any design awards. But honestly, I really wouldn't expect any like rare woods from the Amazon rainforest or anything like that from this price point. The next category I'm going to rank is sound quality, and I give the HT-35s a 3.5 out of 5. Now, these are satellite speakers, and you have to keep that in mind when listening to them, because since they have a smaller cabinet, a smaller woofer, and even a little bit smaller on the tweeter side, you don't get the same fullness of sound as you would get out of a pair of floor standing speakers or even bookshelf speakers. But they do a good job at what they are. They are satellite speakers. And one of the benefits of this system compared to a traditional soundbar system is you have dedicated front left, center, and right channels. So you can get a nice wide sound stage. But one thing you want to remember is you don't want your front left and front right to be too wide from your center channel, because you can find that there are sonic holes when you have a panning shot. But once you get them in close enough, it does sound really good. I also like the side surrounds, because again, with that pan, you get a nice pan with the side surrounds and the other 3 speakers. Now, speaking of the subwoofer, I set my crossover right around 110 Hertz, and I found that it had a nice blend from the satellites to the subwoofer. But you can play around with the crossover setting and determine what works best for you and your room. As I said earlier, the subwoofer itself will play down to about 30 Hertz or so, but it really starts to shine right around 40 Hertz, and it does a pretty good job with bass. When watching movies, dialogue is nice and centered from the center channel, and soundtracks and effects from the front left and right played right on time, along with the side surrounds. When they were supposed to come in, they came in. Bass was nice and deep, and it had a nice deep rumble to it, although it didn't shake the room. But again, this is an 8-inch subwoofer. So from a home theater standpoint, watching movies, this does a great job. When listening to music, I found the system to be pretty good, but I did notice that it didn't have the mid-range punch that I really wanted, or that I was really kind of looking for. The highs were a bit more prominent than the mid-range, and the highs sounded pretty good, but I wish there was a little bit more detail in the highs. The bass sounded great from the subwoofer, that was fine, but like I said, I wish there was a little bit more mid-range punch and highs. But really, if you're buying this system, it's HT home theater, and that's really what this is more geared towards, is a home theater system. So I give this a 3.5 out of 5 for sound quality. Now, the final category I'm going to rank is value, and I give these a 5 out of 5. They retail normally for $220, which is a great price for a 5.1 system like this. Now, just remember, you will have to buy a receiver to power these, but again, you get a 5.1 system for $220 once you have a receiver. But I recently saw them on sale on Monoprice.com for $160. So that's even better. I mean, this is a killer deal at $160. So for value, I've got to give it a 5 out of 5. Overall, I highly recommend the HT-35s for anyone that is looking for a 5.1 system for a small room, or if you're just starting out and you are on a budget. At $220 for this entire set, it is a great deal. At $160 for the set, it is a ridiculous deal. But remember, you will need an AV receiver or integrated amplifier to power these satellite speakers. Now, the subwoofer is already powered. All you need to do is connect it to that AV receiver or integrated amplifier. And if you're concerned about how to do that, I'll put a link in the description below. I did a video on connecting speakers to AV receivers, and you can definitely check that out. Now, when watching movies, I did enjoy this system, although when listening to music, I did wish it had a little bit more mid-range punch and detail on the high end, but it does a pretty good job for what it is. If you want to purchase the HT-35s or anything else from Monoprice, use those links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We'll talk to you next time.